So here we are in my new garden shed, and as you can see, it's got a window and there's a door there that you can't see, but I will show you shortly. And this material is actually a vapor barrier. It's a wonderful product which allows the moisture to depart the building, and it doesn't allow it to come back in again. I have the good fortune to own a dehumidifier, and as such I think I've removed about four full buckets on it, which is about 3 litres. So yeah, that's 12 litres. That's a lot of water. So in here now, I don't know if you can hear it, but that's nice and dry. And I've bought some timber, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building over there. I want there to be a nice workbench and a place to store tools. And I did actually initially fill this place up, but it looked a bit of a mess. Anyway, I'll switch off now, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of like give you a bit of a tour. So this is the area where I want to build some kind of workbench, and it's about 1 metre high here, about 1.7 metres across there, and the idea being is that I can store tools underneath it. A good idea is to put some temporary lights up, and as you can see here, I've just got some temporary cheapo lights, and everything is held in position by clamps, so there's nothing permanent. The electrician will come in at some point in time, and actually there is a hole right there in the corner ready to accept a cable which is lolling about outside. So there's some of the timber that I've bought, ready to start work, and up there I've got some impregnated stuff. I've got about 12 boards of it, and I brought down just some basic tools. So there's a chop saw that I've got, and then in there obviously just little bits and pieces, but I've got a nice workshop up in the house that I can go back up to. Everything starts with a drawing, and just to show how bad this basic drawing is, I don't know if you can see that, but that shows the corner of the room, and that's effectively this little area here. So what I'll do is I'll put this on time lapse, and then once it's on time lapse, you can just see it all happen in front of you. Okay, so that's got the top of the first bench on. I went for the simplest design I possibly could. I really did think about, getting up the dado stack on the old DeWalt, and making sure that this was all sort of like rebated together. But you know what? In the end, I just thought it's a garden shed. It just doesn't need it. However, I would still recommend, as one would expect, to make sure that you mark out and that you drill the holes first, and to that point everything is done with that first, and then after that it's just driven in with the impact. So as you look here, these have got screw heads, and they're sunk in. No one cares about that, but if there's a screw head at the back, then there's one at the front, one there. There's obviously going to be one corresponding up there, so that looks good. So now what I need to do is I need to take some of that timber over there, a couple of those boards, and then just cut them. I need to notch really to fit around there, notch to fit around that corner, and probably the same thing down the bottom. So I'll notch that, get that fitted, then there will be the ability to put some tools in there that I don't really want visible. And obviously this place has got windows. There's a couple of little windows on the doors. So I'm figuring that if I put the more expensive stuff, you know, like the chainsaws and the garden blowers and stuff like that, and that's sort of hidden down there. And I've deliberately left that as one great big open space down the bottom, so that you know, if I put some kind of vertical support in here, it would have made it useless really. So I wanted to leave that as open as possible. And it's amazing how necessity is the mother of invention, because I knew what I wanted, but I had no idea about how I was going to do it, and I ended up just you know, making a frame, screwing it to the wall, making that frame, screwing it to the wall, and I just literally put those supports on the outside, and it's worked out really well, and that is proper solid. So I'm going to get on now. I'll put it back on time lapse, and we will well, you can just watch me basically filling in the bottom. So that's finished off. This is very rough, obviously exterior grade, you know, pressure treated timber. So I've sanded it, and I just put a round edge on it because it just looks pretty. That's quite nice that there's a contrast between that, you know, white timber, that white pine there, and that stuff. So there we go. That's that done. You can see here, I just thought, well, I might as well fill that in. So I'm about to do the same thing over there, so you might as well watch that. Real simple piece of wood, interference fit, straight ends, cut off the chop saw, and then screws it in at an angle. So basically I'm going to put these pieces of wood in here, bang it in, snug it down. I've made it a good... Just going to make sure that I've actually, with this, it's just what it wants to just be level with the work surface. It's a bit high on that side. That was fun. Alright, so I've just filled in those little bits there. They look good. And it actually has sort of a nice little feel to that now. Nice little workbench. And obviously because I've gone over it with the old random orbital, it's got a nice feel to it as well. I've come up with this idea and I thought to myself, first of all I've got a much better picture from the camera because the rest of it looks pretty bad, I think. But I've got this idea that I want to put a shelf, and the shelf wants to go up here, but because this is pretty useless space, and there's a little bit of a shelf here because you've got a piece of wood which is effectively that thick, so you know you can put something on it. But I was thinking to myself, what would be nice is if I had a piece of timber that went all the way along here. That would look pretty damn good, like this. The only problem with that is that you've got these great big hollows here. So what I thought was that, I don't know if you can see this, but I've marked out the timber here, and I've actually put the marks that correspond to the verticals, you know, basically the supports, and I'm going to cut those out. It gets a bit tricky when it gets over here because obviously these are at 45 degrees, and so I'm going to need to cut this at 45 degrees. And I've marked them as best as I possibly can. I don't know if the camera can pick that up there, so you can see there, but when you look here, you see it's marked at 45 degrees. And then trusted DeWalt, and I have here the ability to skew this head so I can make it 45 degrees. And the other thing that I've really noticed, and this was something that I picked up years ago when I was watching an old episode of Norm Abrams in This Old House, is that he used to take his speed square, his trusty speed square, and he would hold his speed square against the timber, and then you can imagine that riding against that like that. And then the idea being is that you're using that as a straight edge. So that's what I'm going to now try and see if I can't get some decent results, because I want that piece of wood to fit up there. And then I thought what would be really nice is if I put a little shelf in here and a little shelf in here, and I rounded them off on the inside, you'd actually have a bit of symmetry there, and it would look pretty, as well as being pretty functional. And I'm hoping that my beloved will use this possibly as a little bit of a potting shed as well, so as well as storage for garden furniture and tools and that kind of stuff. She might want to do a bit of germination in here. So let's see how this works out. I'll try and set the camera up so that you can see how this works. Always helps if you plug it in. Now this is a tricky one because I'm trying to reference a flat surface against here. So that flat surface has got to be referenced against that. And as well as referencing that flat surface, I've got to reference that surface against this surface here. So without cutting my fingers off, let's see how this goes. Well, I don't know, we'll have to see how that one works out. It certainly looks okay. And that certainly looks better than if I had tried to do the whole thing by eye, so we'll see how that works out. Finished off with a chisel. This is going to be a tricky one. Get in this corner. So the only way to really remove this is to take it out with a chisel, because obviously, you're sliding in at this angle here. So I need to chop out the big stuff first. And you can see that just snaps off, so that's the angle that it's going in at. So if we just take it off little bit by little bit, and then this one is actually onto the line now. And then any kind of cleanup necessary I can do from both sides with a good sharp chisel. It's firework night, I think, tomorrow, so it's pretty noisy at the moment with fireworks going off. The rest are easy to cut because they're straight. So I've set the blade to taken the angle off the blade, and then we're going to cut these ones flush. So I'll put this one on time lapse. As discussed, that kind of like 45 slice there, and then same thing on the other side. I fettled with it about 3 or 4 times. See how it fits. So you can now see the way that that fits neatly all the way along, like that. Now that this is screwed up, it's got a screw going through here, the same on the other side, and a couple down the back here. And that's enough for what it wants to be, really. I could probably put another one in the middle there for good luck. I think what I want to do is I want to put another shelf that basically goes across here and has a rounded corner here and a rounded corner here. And this I'm going to round off as well, just to give it that kind of, smooth look. So you'll have one that'll be notched out here and a bit notched out there, so you'll have a nice little shelf there. They're all sanded so they're nice and smooth, they've got nice soft edges. So now you've got a place to put stuff up here, and you've got a place to put stuff on here, and you've got 2 shelves down there. It's not what it's going to get used for, but it's very functional now.